Hey guys, welcome back to the Paladins Alliance. It's so good to be back, and I'm glad the reception of that Leadify video has been doing well. I'm excited to continue that series. I'll drop it in the description box if you guys want to check it out. Those guys are doing great work over there. And without further ado, I wanted to talk about the Blast Premier World Finals that just happened recently. It's the end of Tier 1 Counter-Strike for 2021. And we had a lot of great storylines coming into it. Vitality and Liquid putting up more of a fight than we expected. Heroic kind of floundering, and same for G2 just because of their roster issues and whatnot. But the primary team that I want to talk about coming from this World Final is Gambit, and they made a run all the way to the Grand Finals against Na'Vi and pushed them to 3 maps. It felt as though that even if they picked Overpass, perhaps, that we might have had a different victor. And I really want to pick apart why Gambit looked much more competitive in this event, more compared to the other Tier 1 events that they were heavily considered to be favorites or contenders, and they just didn't manage to cross the line. And so if we look at the top-rated players of this event, we have Simple, Zaiwu, Nico, and Electronic. Obviously, these are people that we expect to be up there, but then you keep going down the list. You obviously have Blame F. They bombed out of this tournament, but Blame F did have a big contribution for this team. And then we have Shiro, Hobbit, and Ax1le. Shiro, largely, his ratings will be higher because he is that passive AWP player, where his statistics do go up naturally because his deaths are less and his impact kills are just that much higher. But then we have Hobbit and Ax1le, who were the large reason why Gambit was that world-beating team going into the online era, right? And primarily, Hobbit and Ax1le were the reason why they went from a good team to a great team. And it came down to those late round situations where you would think that Gambit was on the ropes. You'd have a player like Hobbit, or you'd have a player like Ax1le to give you those valuable entries to get back into the round and turn the tide of the match altogether. And that's why they had so many crazy comebacks, because of players like this. And they did that. And specifically, I want to talk about Hobbit. His resurgence most recently at this Blast World Final, and even at V4, and you see at the major. The reason why they're going deep is a large part of it has to come down to how reliable the experience of Hobbit and his aim and his positioning, his understanding of the game, and enabling his younger teammates to take those more bold peaks and break into the scene that way. And so most recently, we had the World Finals. They came in second. He did very well for himself. Looking at his ratings here, we'll actually add this into the filter so we can have a better look. And obviously, it's not like a stellar rating, but I still want to go through some demos and show you those key rounds that really elevated Gambit's level and elevated players like Ax1le, who have been largely absent in those big events and those big moments. And with this happening in 2022, if they can keep this type of level between these two, this duo, I know Maui Snake's been talking about it earlier on in the online era about how they're such a threat to World Counter-Strike. If they're on, they could be one of the most dangerous duos in World Counter-Strike. But if they are not on, that's when we have these more mediocre results, when they're getting those 3rd to 4s, those 5th to 6, and we'd want more from Gambit. And I want to really break down those demos and show you why I think Gambit could be much stronger heading into 2022 with the good form of Hobbit. So competition-wise, Gambit beat everybody that they needed to and lost at the final hurdle against Na'Vi. They beat the Liquid that slew Na'Vi in the opening round. They beat the Vitality that was really showing that they were the second best team in the world. And then they also beat Heroic, who, although they were hamstrung by the Borup unlikely move at the Blast World Finals, it was still something that they had to get through, and they still passed it with flying colors. And so now heading into this game against Liquid on Inferno here, there was quite a dicey scenario with the force buy situation, and Hobbit really puts the team on his back here and takes matters into his own hands with a great AK play down onto the A site. So starting it off early, he just goes into bridge and spams down apps. He doesn't want to make sure that anybody on Bal can walk up for free, so he decides to spam down. And although it doesn't actually net him anything, it's a good way to just keep the CTs honest down an app before you reaggress and try to take that control later on in the round. And while all this is happening, they basically tried to smush out the utility of the CTs on the B side of the map. And so when you pivot back over to B, they throw 2 smokes here. They throw a smoke into CT and a smoke into coffins. And while they do that, they basically snuff out all that utility very early on, so that when they double back to A, there's no real utility that can stop them from taking A site. And Stewie even drops a smoke very early here, all things considered. And while all this is happening, they've already doubled back to brackets. And they essentially go 1 for 2. And with Inters also getting tagged before Fallen actually goes down, now you're thinking, a Liege rather, before you go down, you're now put in a scenario where Hobbit has to largely take point and play entry. Ax1le is dead, and he has to take matters into his own hands. And so watch what he does here. He decides to play very, very forward and very aggressive in this situation, because he knows that if he goes down, this round is pretty much over, and he has to take matters in his own hands, especially with the AK that he has picked up. So he basically dry swings Fallen here, which is a mad impressive thing to do, especially with the shots that he's been hitting. And although that he's low, it's still a dangerous peak to take, because one shot to the head and you're dead, right? And while all this is happening, they segment the bomb site with this smoke onto Arch. And for this very same reason, it's so Hobbit can clear small pit and walk around and attack Grim, the fighting in the pit. And because of this, Grim's attention is turned, and Shiro can essentially waltz into the bomb site and get the bomb down. He has to hit that shot too, right? If he does, if he actually dies there, the round's pretty much over. Shiro is left in an impossible situation, having to snuff out anybody in pit, which is definitely a difficult angle for a CT to clear, or sorry, a T to clear in a post plant. But with that taken care of, Hobbit is still like really hunting for a kill. He wants to put this down into the 2v1 scenario and just put the boot down on to Team Liquid. And so he tries to take a fight Arch. He doesn't get anything for his troubles and moves over to pit. And while he does this, he's basically giving up Arch and allowing Shiro to take point on that fight. And he says, okay, well, I'm going to be a little bit more aggressive, take my fight into lane and take my fight into apps, and take 2 angles at once, essentially. And he does it very well. He allows for any of the players coming up lane to come up free of charge. And as soon as Naf peeks out on Arch, that's his cue to at least swing onto the lane player, see if there's anything there, because there's going to be a double swing. And then he clears out apps subsequently right after and gets the kill down into balcony. And these kills are so important. This round is so important. Putting down Liquid into an eco, and this is really where the snowball of Gambit's T side starts to muster up, and they take this late around 16-13-ish, and was the real key proponent as to why they won the series. As I was talking about before, in those late game situations in the online era, Hobbit would be a large proponent that would bail them out of certain scenarios where perhaps they had a comeback on the other team's half coming back into the game, and he would basically just shut them out and close the game out. But we never really had that, especially at stuff like the Major, where they would flounder into overtime against Fury on this map. But here, Hobbit shows why he is experienced as he is and why he deserves the success that Gambit has really tried to push for in recent months. So, early on, this is basically a different look to the apps take that Hobbit wanted to do. So, previously, he was playing very passive on Bridge, just spamming through Balk, but in this one he actually wants to take matters in his own hands and get into apps so that he can basically feel out an entry on the A bomb side, maybe a kill down at a pit, maybe a kill on the porch, somehow catching a timing onto the Arch player, something like that, because they know that Hobbit is very good at getting kills later on in the round, right? Or later on in the map even. And so he spams on early, making it no secret that he is in apartments. But this is basically Liquid basically has to consider that he's just sitting back in the back of apartments and just taking the control and stating that we are in apartments, but doesn't actually aggress down. This smoke though is a great one that you could probably use in your matchmaking games, where you just drop this lurk smoke down at that hay bale slash Balk area. And it gives you a little leeway to get into Balk. If the CTs aren't spamming, you can basically weasel your way out and fight Arch, and you can fight on the site as well without them really seeing you in there. But while this is happening, he actually has a great nade spam combo here onto Pit, where he just tosses this nade in, softens up Grim, and just takes him out with a great kill there. And Nafany gets a kill on Porch, which allows Hobbit to push out into Balk pretty much unscathed, and it's just Fallen left on his bomb side, and he wants to shut down anything that he possibly can, or else it's Gambit's map. And while Nafany takes point, Fallen is still confused and trying to take out that lane player, and Hobbit swings, gets that kill onto Fallen there. And this is just a round-winning play, because even if the B players that they have don't make it into the A bomb site, you have all of A at your disposal, and those trades are going to be very difficult to win, especially in that post-plant scenario. So round-winning play, game-winning play, match-winning play from Hobbit here, and it shows that when he has those late-game pop-offs, it can really be the difference maker for Gambit as a squad to shut out any of those choking situations that they love to face in Stockholm especially. I want to showcase the synergy that Hobbit has with his team here, and how much he trusts the other teammates in his squad to bail him out in certain individual scenarios. And his map understanding, especially on Dust 2, although their map win percentage hasn't been very good, their understanding of the map is still very sound. They understand which pieces of the map is most important and where they should use their limited utility on, especially as the round transpires. So look at this. Vitality bounces back with their force by win, and it's weak. It's weak weaponry all around and very limited utility. So they fight for long control here. Hobbit's very willing to use his early utility to support that. And as this is happening, they have nobody mid, right? So Hobbit just temporarily doubles back, but Nafany says, okay, well, I'll go there for you. Just let me fast cat you real quick. And so he jumps up, tosses his smoke on early, because he understands that Vitality will not want to fight for cat control that early. They understand that with the close range weapons and the potential for a force buy, it'd be basically suicide to just barrel through that smoke. And so Hobbit throws a smoke and nade to basically puff off Gambit's chest that, look, we have players here and you don't really want to mess with us. And while the smoke is still plumed, he can double back into mid and create this nifty little setup that I really enjoyed watching when it did happen live. So Nafany understands that he only has a Tech 9 and armor in the situation, so they essentially double into the cubby position near the mid doors. Watch this. And so I think he gets a little bit of information that there is a player there, and he just goes in dry. And when Kyojin doubles back, he doesn't really check it completely. So look at this. He contacts out, and this baits in Hobbit beautifully. Kyojin half checks it, and Hobbit punishes. And while all this happens, look at this. Shiro has basically doubled back. He says, okay, I'm going to ditch window, and I'm going to move all the way back into here and fight mid, because we've gotten a kill early on here on upper tunnel, so I can double back into mid no problem. And he hears that tag, and Hobbit swings out again and gets the third kill. So just marvelous playmaking here from Hobbit to trust that Nafany is going to bait him in perfectly, and he pounces in with a beautiful 2K, and then also bailing out Shiro with his tag as well on that scout. So overall, Hobbit is such an irreplaceable piece to this Gambit puzzle, and I cannot wait to see if he can really elevate Gambit to that championship winning squad mentality later on here in 2022. So to wrap this whole video up, I want to showcase a round against Navi in the grand final that just is the whole package of why I think Hobbit is just such a fantastic player, and I'm just so surprised that he had such a career resurgence on this team, and he's really the linchpin of this team's success, frankly. So he's not only playing with no armor in this situation, I guess that must have been some mismanagement in the finances, but he's also playing with an MP9. So every swing that he has to take has to come off of the back of some kind of utility, or he basically just gets ripped apart by these AKs and Galils that Navi have bought up here. So instantly throws that palm tree flash that everybody loves throwing. It's integral to the success of any mid control that is needed. And he's alone. He's essentially alone here with an A leading Navi. Tosses his smoke early into Palace and tucks into Dark. This is absolutely insane that they're basically leaving an armorless Hobbit on the A bomb site. So Boomich actually gets the kill down mid, and this is basically leaving all the alarm bells ringing that A is very, very weak in this situation. So we gotta bolster it down. And while this is happening, Hobbit is basically just going to bait for his teammates and then get baited by his teammates as well to pounce again. So watch this. So as you can see, I think that's Shiro that's doubling back here, peeks down into the A ramp, and I don't think, he does get a kill there, and that basically propels Electronic to push the smoke because he wants to get that instant trade. But that's where Hobbit strikes, a great bait from Shiro, indirectly or directly, it doesn't really matter. But Hobbit gets the kill on a back-turned Electronic, and after he punches, he dives back under into Dark. And Bit is like, he's going crazy in this situation. He's calming the hell out of this round. He knows that if he throws a molly, that Hobbit's definitely going to swing, right? But this is where Nafany, or actually, no, Shiro in this situation, throws a beautiful flash, and Hobbit reorients himself, swings out, gets that kill, and basically toys with Simple in this situation. He moves out, baits Simple's attention down into Dark, and Nafany pounces from jungle, and that's where another kill comes out. And even though Boomich is the last alive, and he has so much information, there's not really much for him to do, especially if Hobbit tucks in like this. Beautiful crossfire from Gambit, and it's that synergy and the team play and the understanding of when to peek based off of what information their teammates have gained that I just love about Gambit, and I love about Hobbit especially. And I'm so excited to see if they can really cross that hump that they've been lacking to cross later on in this year, especially in those studio land and arena environments. I think you can easily consider Hobbit to be in the top 20 players conversation, but beyond his individual skills, there's also so much intangibles that he brings to this roster. The experience that he provides after winning the I believe is it 2017-2016 major in Krakow. He's really stepped up as that experienced veteran to quell any nerves that might be coming from the youngsters on this team. And even though it's been like middling results in the land situations, there is still so much to offer from Gambit that I think the sky's the limit in 2022. They still have a very sound system on this squad, and it all comes off of the back of Hobbit's heroics on this team. And if he can find that extra gear that he was showing in the online era, then seriously, I think that people will continue to sleep on Gambit, and they'll have their rise when it has to happen. If Ax1le and Hobbit do show up, there is nothing that can stop this team from trying to dethrone a team like Na'Vi, which historically, they have a pretty good map pool to battle up against. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'm going on a content spree. I'm going to be trying to upload twice a week now, and really try to get out as much content now that we're in that postseason. I'm going to be doing another video on all the most recent roster moves, or reports rather, and I'll probably have a part 2 for that as well, because you know our entire scene is going to be changing now with how many teams are gonna just massively change their structure. But like, subscribe. I'm so thankful for you guys this year. I'm just shocked that I'm in the place of privilege that I'm in now, and I can't wait to just grow this channel with you guys and experience 2022 and beyond with some great CSGO content. So happy holidays, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.